Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Speaking the Truth About Money with Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. I am both Martin Coward and Joy the Wise Woman. Martin is my human name, and Joy the Wise Woman is my spiritual name because I know that we're both human and spiritual. So I'm so excited today because I've got a very, very special guest, Carlos Legaspy. Carlos Legaspy is the CEO and the president of Insight Securities and the author of a fantastic new book, Going for Broke. It reads like a James Bond thriller, but it's a true story. And it's his story. And it's quite an amazing story. And that's why he's here today, because I'm just so excited to give him a place to share that story because it's an important story. It's an important story about discrimination in a whole host of ways. Carlos is a Mexican man, and he runs one of the largest Latino or Latin American investment banking firms. Excuse me, I got that language incorrect, but he does run one of the largest investment banking firms in the world, and he's had some challenges along the way. And he's going to tell you a little bit about his challenges in just a few minutes. And so, Carlos, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about your book and talk about what your life's been about and what all the challenges you faced in getting that. So, why don't you start out just telling us a little bit about Carlos growing up? How did Carlos get here? A young boy growing up in Mexico and finds himself to be like the David against Goliath of Wall Street. How did you get here today and get to the place where you wrote this book?
Well, thank you, Martin. Pleasure to be here. I grew up right at the Mexico-U.S. border. I was born on the U.S. side, but I grew up on the Mexican side, going back and forth between El Paso, Texas, and Juarez, Mexico. And I finished all my studies in Mexico, graduated in 1989. So I'm going to be, next week, I'll be 55 years old. And I came to the U.S. I got immediately into Wall Street. I was always drawn to the dynamism of that industry. You know, it's exciting and it's challenging and and I've always been a thrill seeker, and so I was drawn to that. And I faced some, it's a pretty close, or at least 30 years ago, it was definitely what's called good old boy club, difficult to break in. And so in 1996, I decided to set up my own practice, and under the auspices of another firm. And then eventually, I've always had the dream of having my own firm. And I realized that in 2012, about 10 years ago, I bought an existing broker dealer in Chicago, cracked the piggy bank, and bought the firm, and it started to realizing my vision. And in 2016, I came across, which I didn't know that at the time, but a group of international fraudsters that were running a hundreds of millions of dollars Ponzi scheme that by inadvertently I brought down by restricting investments in their securities, and that led to the whole scheme collapsing. And some of their clients were victims of the fraud, seeking to recover. They got in cahoots with their former advisors, some unscrupulous lawyers, to try to pin the responsibility on me. And I was facing $40 million worth of lawsuits, an existential threat to my firm, myself, because of, I was personally named in the lawsuit. So I would have been brought down with the claims. I was overwhelmed. And that saga took me 3.5 years to overcome it. And I was able to come out of the other side. And out of that, that's what led me to write the book. And the book is, it has two, what I call the over and the under. The over is the story, and like you said, it's like a James Bond story, like, Justice Department, criminals, different places of Wall Street. it's it's a juicy story. It's not a heavy read. It's but then it has what I call the under, in terms of what was going inside, in my interior,
Mm-hmm.
what led me to not give up, and some lot of outside the box thinking to be able to, a little guy, confront the big guys. And so I'm hoping that the reader will be inspired by the story and apply whatever lessons are there to their own life, to be able to uh, better pursue their dreams, transcend their limitations, and being a queer man, being a Latino man, being an outsider in this environment, to claim a seat on the table that is ours. and and sometimes I buy into that lie, and that I don't belong in, and I let it pass.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I think that feeling of not belonging, that not fitting in. I think that's for me. I would say that as a gay man and a queer man myself, that and all that I did to try to fit in with the normal boys, and I would imagine what maybe that was for you a little bit of a challenge too. How do I fit in with that good old boy? I'm a Mexican. I'm not a white man, and I'm a queer man. And so talk to me a little bit about what did it feel like for you that when you realized that they were pinning this on you. I mean, you uncovered it, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, they're trying to reverse this whole thing and make me look like the bad guy. What did that feel like on the inside?
Oh man, well, I felt really angry,
Yeah,
really, really angry. And it's and that anger is the one who actually got me through it.
yeah,
um, because uh, anger, if focused and funneled, it's a really constructive, very creative energy. It's when it goes out of control and turns into rage that is it's problematic. So out of that anger, the indignation, how dare they destroy what I had built for 30 years,
yeah,
especially because I didn't do it. It was hard to see the the many of these investors were victims, but at the same time, being a victim of fraud does not give you the right to go and victimize others. So the other side of the coin was immediately the perpetrator,
yeah,
saying, "Well, I got screwed, so I'm entitled to go and screw somebody else," and that really enraged me. And I was protecting my realm, my employees, the people that depended on my firm. I couldn't just fold and let
yeah.
the other side just win without a fight. I didn't know if I was going to prevail, but I made the decision that I was going to fight like hell, make it, um, if they were to prevail, make that victory feel like defeat for them, and being so expensive, give them a bloody nose. In rugby terms, I play rugby, and 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 knowing that because I was giving it my all, if the outcome was not what I was hoping, at least I was at peace that I had given it my all, that I had not left
That's
anything
beautiful.
on the table. I started writing the book before the saga ended, so I didn't know if it was going to be a happy ending or a sad ending. Ended up in this timeline is a good ending, but it's I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
when you're in the darkness, it's scary, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And I want to go back to that something you said about anger, and I think that's an important thing for people because people often don't. Anger is one of those misunderstood emotions, and I like what you said. Anger can either provoke us to become. We usually can become angry because we have been victimized. Somebody has done something. Something's been taken away from us that we care about, so we get angry about it. So your anger is understood, but we have a choice there. It sounds like to me you have a choice to either take that anger and take it into good action to
Hmm.
make the world better, to learn from it, and to actually put people in the right place and get
Hmm.
the truth to be revealed, or you can do what some people do, and that's become a perpetrator. You can join into the battle, and you can go out and get even.
Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit. Just pull that out a little bit more. But how do, what guides you into taking the right action and not becoming the perpetrator? How did you discover the value of using anger as a course of action for forward thinking and progress?
Um, the uh, One of the founders of the nonviolent communication, Marshall Rosenberg, talks that we have the giraffe and the jackal. Being the giraffe, the land animal with the largest heart, because it has to pump the blood all the way to the top as a symbol of being heart centered. But also we have the jackals, which is that dark side, or what Carl Jung would call shadow. And 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 for me, I needed to let the jackals run first before dropping into the heart. So I had moments in which I could visualize me really beating the crap out of my adversaries and things like that. So trying to be, oh, I'm this, conscious being, kind of zen and all that. That doesn't work unless I give an outlet to that side. So
Right,
that was the first step. So I did my own rage work, things like that, so that would, not interfere into tapping that anger into that creative, constructive side, that protective side, in which I had to be conscious of why was I doing this. So seeing my staff, the clients, the people that depended on me, that was a great motivator of saying, I cannot let these guys destroy that.
right.
And then that's where it came the heart centered, and a lot of unorthodox ideas came from that indignation. And I talk about it on the book, that things that have never been tried before and they worked, and things like that derived from that.
Yeah, that and I hear you saying, and we so the world knows uh, Carlos and I know each other from years of working together in the Mankind Project, which is really about getting into heart space and about looking at our shadows and doing these processes. So, some transparency there. We both know about how we use shadow and how we learn to love and accept those parts of ourselves. And part of the process of what I believe he's saying to us is that, yeah, those feelings are real, and you don't want to push them down, and you don't want to squash them because they're going to come up some other way. What we'll teach you, and what Carlos is saying, experience. I got to feel that rage. I got to go out and express it somewhere in a way that's not going to cause any damage to me or anybody else. But it's important to let that anger out of you, to release it, to let it out of the body. Then you've got the clarity, the space in order to come from the heart. Is I believe what you're saying. I'm just trying to summarize that so
That
people
that's
living.
that's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah, and so when we begin to live from heart. So another way that I think, and we're going to just jump over for a second, is the fact that I get the privilege of I've had the privilege of being your coach for the last year as you're going through this, and that is really talk about a wonderful privilege to be in your inner circle as you have worked through this and created this story. Has been an absolute delight for me, and I am so grateful for that opportunity. I want to talk a little bit about you just being a disruptor in Wall Street in general. I mean, the book is a great way to sort of show that you mean what you say. You're not afraid of anybody, and you're going to do what's right for the world and what's right for the community. Talk a little bit about what you see as a better way for investment banking firms and financial services firms to operate from the heart. What does that mean to you, to be a heart-centered CEO of a big investment firm?
Well, it has to do with intention. Starts with the intention. What's the purpose? Why am I doing this? If I'm in this industry just because it's possibility of making a lot of money and that's it, that normally is what gives to the bad rap that Wall Street gets. But it's that energy, money, investments. It's in our current society. It's a representation of life energy, and it becomes a focal point of that life energy, and it has the potential to do a lot of good or do a lot of harm, depending on how it's used. And so for me, one of the reasons I wanted my own firm is that I could throw out the book and create something that would be aligned with my values and what I believe, which I believe that I could have a collaborative, positive environment that did good for its clients, good for employees, good for myself. That it. So yeah, I'm in business to make money, and that's fine, and I can make a lot of money without having to need to cheat anybody. And
Yeah.
and 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 one of the things that put this thesis to the test was through this ordeal, because um, my affiliated advisors have choices. They could be affiliated to my firm, they could be affiliated to some of my competitors. And I was in so much trouble that the logic would say all of them should have bolted. My ship was sinking, and they chose not to. And the only explanation I have is that, first of all, I was always real with him. I never, tried to hide or mislead him and pretend that I was not in trouble. I was in trouble, and many of them even stepped up and helped.
Mm-hmm.
And my competitors would call him and solicit them, and look, Carlos ran the ship into some rocks. It's on the sink, jump ship. And yes, some did leave, but the majority didn't. And and I think was precisely because of that connection that we had developed. And they didn't abandon me. And for me, that's why I dedicate the book to them, because I'm in a place of gratitude to
Yeah.
to
I love
to
that
them.
because what it is, and my philosophy and yours too, is that if we put people first, if we put relationships first, if we put I care about the people before first, the money will then follow. And I love what you said about energy a few minutes ago about positive energy. Willie Nelson has a new song out. It's called "Energy Follows Thoughts." And what I like to add to that is energy follows thoughts, and money follows energy. And if your thoughts are negative, if you're out there for yourself, if your thoughts about money are negative, greedy, I want it for me, that's the leader, then what you're going to get is you're going to end up getting negative money around it. But if you're leading with a place of positive energy, energy of around money and profits, of making a difference in the world and adding value, then you have a much higher potential for the money to follow that positive energy into having a profitable outcome for the benefit of everyone. That's what I'm hearing in what you're saying about energy and money and Wall Street and running
Correct.
a firm that's people first and the people who got behind you. Because how do you create trust and transparency? You tell them the truth. And that's one of the top qualifications of a really good leader is someone that has the ability to be able to be honest, completely honest when the truth, when a lie might be a little more more comfortable, but by telling them the truth, people trusted you and they followed you, and now look where you've come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it feels pretty good, right?
It does.
So what's the one challenge in your story that really had you in the moment? Go back to that day when you got some news or maybe something happened that said, "Oh my God, there's just no way." But you know what I believe? The bigger the challenge, the bigger the opportunity. What's the one of those things in that saga that you might want to share with us today?
Well, that's why I talk about. I gave it my all, and there was a moment in the book that I was looking into my bag of tricks, like in trying to see if I could pull another rabbit out of my hat. I had
Hmm.
been pulling rabbits out of that hat for several years already just to stay afloat. And I was at the end. I was um, within minutes of announcing that the that I was going to close the firm, and the universe didn't let me. I I got a call out of the blue for somebody offering me exactly what I needed, and it's in that moment, and that stopped me. So I was came right to the edge, and I was at that place of surrender. I was in a place of I I I had given it my all and I couldn't do more, and I had accepted in a way the fate, and that's what I'm talking about. That if I give it my all, the universe responds, and if it's not meant to be that way, something magically, a rabbit fell out of the sky right when my hat had no more rabbits, and it happened a couple of times along the book. So I'm not, say, oh man, I'm this, I'm the shit. I did, what I accomplished was amazing, but I wouldn't have been able to accomplish it if I had not received a lot of help.
I love that, Carl, and I love particularly because I really, I mean, for my own, everything that I talk about in the world from my own journey and yours is that whole the spiritual principle of surrendering. Surrendering. Finally, we get to that last moment, and I've done everything I can. I do not know how to solve this problem, God. I am going to give it to you because it is way beyond me. And it's amazing that if you're working with the universe and you're in touch with that, the universe will all of a sudden give you exactly what you need. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened for you.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to jump over for 1 second because you and I know each other from years of working with this great organization called the Mankind Project, which does social, emotional, educational leadership work for men, a lot of shadow work. And I want to know, well, one, you might talk a little bit about what shadow work is and what the Mankind, but I'd really like to know a little bit about what it is for our audience, and also how your inner work, how your work and in the Mankind Project and doing shadow work has been so helpful to you in getting through this ordeal.
Well, it's I sometimes I think we're I don't know how people live without doing personal work.
I don't either.
It's it sustained me. It it had a support system where I could, you know, cry or rage or whatever I need to do so that I can fill my cup and fill my tank so when I come to the battle, I was not depleted. And so that personal work um, is what uh, gave me the wherewithal to overcome the challenges, and it's also the everything I think happens for a reason. I think it was meant for me to go through this ordeal, uh, to really test myself, my limits, I, everything that I had to do on the inside to overcome it. They're gifts that I carry with me going forward. So it's um, it's that one of my teachers says me is that constantly rubbing uh, is what polishes the stone in the river. So just like that, right now I'm really shiny because I got really polished by all of the ordeal. So
Yeah, yeah, and it was quite an ordeal. Anybody listening, I've read about I'm through about a third of the book, and I got to tell you, when I got the book from Carlos, the pre-released edition he sent me to take a look at, I was like, oh my god! I got through. I think I read the first 4 pages in in like an hour, like an hour. And I was like, oh my god, this is. I couldn't put it down. It was just about your boyhood, growing up. I was just so fascinated. So it's really well written, and I'm excited about getting into some of the more funny, juicier parts of actually the ordeal that you face. I haven't gotten there yet, so I'm looking forward to that. And I think that'll be really cool. So if you just I just really, really commend you for that. And yeah, I'm the same way. I don't know how people, well, that's why I'm a coach. I mean, that's what I do is I teach people how to live in the light. And the way we live in the light is we have to go in there and face our shadows and look at the shadows and actually reframe them to see that experience, that ordeal was actually something we can be grateful for. Right.
Correct.
And that's what I'm hearing you say today is that while you were in it, I can tell you from last year, there were moments when you were not grateful for this ordeal.
Yeah.
in any stretch of the imagination, you were not grateful. And today you are, aren't you?
Well, I think it's important. One of the things is I had to remind myself that the reason things occur is not in the past; it's in the future. So
Yeah.
why did I have to live through this? You could say, oh, because I came across these fraudsters. No, that's the how I got into this. And the why I got into this thing was yet to be revealed. Maybe is this book, maybe something else that's going to come in the future as a result of that ordeal. And that nourished me and allowed me to keep going and say, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be around to know exactly why this had to happen. And so that's one of the reasons that I kept going.
Yeah. I want to ask you another question. We're getting toward the end of the half hour, and I'd like to. And you're an educator and a teacher and a coach with the Mankind Project, and you're a leader of your company. Um, and in terms of doing your own work and the value of that, what would you, and people facing their shadows, what would be one simple thing that you would advise people who are going through something similar to yours, or caught up in their shadows, or caught up in some ordeal, and they can't see the light? What would you suggest that they do so that they can get through the ordeal, or at least take the next right step, so that they can begin to get to where you are?
Always do your best and be brutally honest with yourself about what that best looks like because it fluctuates. So there are days in which I'm in the zone and I'm killing it, and it's my responsibility to take advantage of me being in that zone and make the most of it. And there may be some days that I'm not feeling 100%, and just getting out of bed is my best. But at least I did that. So it means to be honest of where am I on the days that I can't get out of bed, or the days in which I'm feeling in the zone. And what I'm going to perform will vary according to that, and pedal to the metal. Give it your all in those two circumstances.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and it's about becoming aware of where you are in that moment. If I'm in that moment of, well, I'm feeling I'm in the zone, I am in heart space. That's what I call the zone. I am in alignment with the divine, and God, it feels so good. I feel so powerful. There are days when I'm like, how did I get lost out here in the wilderness? Where is, you were here yesterday, Joy? Where are you today? And so what I've learned is to acknowledge, well, you're not here right now, so I'm better off just giving myself some space to reconnect to you. And do you have any kind of spiritual practice that you follow that allows you to, when you're out in the wilderness and you're not feeling connected and you're not to the universe, was there something that you do personally, Carlos, to reconnect that allows you to get back into that alignment?
Well, I have daily practice.
Uh-huh.
Every day I have my practices, so that I drop in, and a good indicator for it is my breath. So if my breath is shallow, that means I'm probably in my head. So I just take a couple of deep breaths, belly breaths, so that I'm drag myself into my body, and so that's a good test every moment. It's, hey, am I breathing shallow or am I breathing deep? If I'm not, take a couple of deep breaths, pull yourself into your body.
Love that. And let me ask you one more question here real quick. Have you ever met anybody successful that did not have some form of a morning power hour, some way to connect with that deeper power?
Well, all the people I admire do so.
I don't know anybody. I know, and I just, some people, like you said, people resist their inner work, people resist meditation, and they miss some kind of power hour. But everybody that I know, from you to Tony Robbins to Oprah Winfrey to Ray Dalio, every single human being that's ever made anything happen of an impact has always had a morning power hour, something they do every single day to get into alignment with that divine creative force within us. That's whatever you want to call that. I like to, people say they don't believe in God. I say, well, do you believe in frequency, age, energy, and vibration? I say, yeah. I said, well, can you see it? They say, no. I said, well, that frequency, vibration, and energy that you can't see that's creating the universe, that's God. That's all there is to it. Do you believe in that? Oh, okay. So yeah, it's all about getting, but you got to get into that. You got to get in alignment with that vibration, that energy, and that frequency that we would call whatever, the universe, the God, whatever you want to call it. But that's really all it is. It's about getting ourselves into an alignment, the human into the alignment with that vibrational frequency. So thank you for that piece of it too. And now, before we go, I know that people are going to hear this today on either my podcast or even watching live. How do people who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for people to find you, Carlos?
I have a website. It's carloslegaspi.com. CarlosLegasp like Peter Y.com. And you can contact me there. Also on social media, still the same places. And the book is currently on pre-sale. The same outlets: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target. Release date is May 17th.
Well, that's fantastic, and that's pretty easy. It's Carlos Legaspy out there, and you can go find him on LinkedIn, social media, and he's got a website by the same names. That's pretty simple and easy to find him. And I know that the kind of man Carlos is. And if you'd like to find out more about his book, like find out more about shadow work, the Mankind Project, any of these kind of things, so that you can live a life of significance and influence because you've gotten out of your way to do so, give him a call, reach out to him. He would probably, I know for a fact, he would love to meet with you and talk to you, share what he knows, his wisdom, because he's just that kind of man. Hold on one second. I just want to give one shout out to how the people can get in touch with me. As I have a Facebook group called Financial Heart Space for gay, transgender, and bisexual men. You can always come join our Facebook group if that's your community and join us over there, or you can just look for me as Martin Coward on all the social media outlets, and you can find me that way. I'm on Martin Coward Coaching, Martin Coward on Facebook, social media, everywhere I'm there. So please come. I'd love to meet you as well. So please send me a direct message or join our Facebook group and join our community, because we're here to support, love and support each other in living a life of significance and influence in the world. So thank you so much for that. Carlos, thank you again so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure knowing you. Hold on one second. I'm just going to close this out and we'll meet for 1 second backstage. Okay.